Rusty, slam rusty, core dead with a sequel. I've been through everything, I done felt all the pain, but I still maintain the champion reign.
Finally, to end it all out, and I'll quickly speed through the other part. I was a platoon leader, so I did get. Even though I didn't have my tab, I still got a pretty like fair shake at like promoting and doing all the army stuff. I still got my platoon. I was still a platoon leader. Went on combat deployment. Went to Syria for 9 months.
Yep.
While I was in Syria, I was stationed with the State Department. And so basically what happened was the Rangers and the Green Berets would kind of go ahead of us and do like the door. So this is in the middle of Syria, and I'll kind of lay it out for you. In the middle of our time in Syria, the United States and what we call the Kurdish fighters are fighting ISIS on the northeast side of the Euphrates River. And then the Russians and the Syrian regime were on like the south side of the Euphrates River. And we're going, so if you have like us kind of on the north of Euphrates and the Russians to the south, and we're all pushing off to the east, pushing ISIS basically back into Iraq.
Right.
Which is basically nowhere because we own Iraq. So we're basically just pushing them to the edge of their country and forcing them out. So what we did was, as they would do that, we would accompany the State Department, and they were in charge of every time we basically bombed a village, we'd go in and give them money to be like, hey, sorry about that. Here's some money to help repair your village. Don't hate us, please. The most action I saw there was we were in there were some shots that we were taking and we were kind of exchanging a little bit, but I don't know if we ever actually capped someone in that. We basically just got some of our diplomats back in the cars and then sped away and went back to our base. So the Green Berets were the ones doing the bulk of the action. But
so yeah, you were pretty much in charge of keeping those people safe.
Correct.
And the Green Berets and the Rangers, which you would have graduated from.
Yeah, they were the ones doing the cool guy stuff. Yeah. And actually, more than that, there was a coalition of nations there. So we had like the French Legion, you had the SAS out there. Some of your boys. Yeah. French Legion and the SAS. Because you're both British and French,
both
right?
British and French.
So Tommy out there representing.
I was out there. I was not out there. That would have been cool if I was out there.
That would have been cool.
Apart from like bombing the city and be like, hey, there's.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. It was the only way to. So the problem was, and the reason why was every time ISIS was forced to leave out of a city, they would booby trap every cupboard, door.
Man.
So like going through every building, door to door, trying to disarm every single thing was just a nightmare.
So they the people from the town kind of knew like, hey, we're gonna get bombed.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't like just level a city, but we would, if we were having a tough time, rather than sending in troops into the villages
and possibly like losing a lot
of lives, sometimes we'd be like, you know what, we'll send a missile over there and just. But which when we went into most of the towns, most of them were pretty. Like the smaller towns are usually left alone, generally speaking. Like we could afford to go more door to door with the troops there.
Yep.
But whenever we went into like the bigger cities like Raqqa,
everything was booby trapped.
Yeah, everything's booby trapped. And there's a town actually where we started. The Kurds had a capital city kind of on the furthest north part of the Euphrates River. And so Raqqa was like the ISIS headquarters, and it was about maybe an hour to the southeast. That was like the hardest. Like when Trump first came into his first term, General Mattis was the Secretary of Defense. And I remember that was his first order, was he just unleashed a fury of bombs on Raqqa City at that time, because we had been trying to like get in there for a good amount of time. And at some point he's like, we're done. Just
we lost a ton of men.
Yeah, we lost enough. It's too tough. These guys are too brutal. Because ISIS were vicious creatures. I mean, they were beheading women and children, throwing them off the rooftops. I mean, they were they were using them as human shields. So they're like, we're going to.
Like they were going in and they were like doing that while the soldiers were coming trying to.
Yeah, and they would blend in with the civilian population. So it was just a nightmare going in. So we had to just like.
They're ruthless.
Very ruthless.
I mean, a big part of like lately, I think, was it Syria that happened? The beheading of a ton of Christians. Was it in Syria?
I mean, it happened all over the place. I know it happened in Syria.
Recently, right?
Oh,
Wasn't there a huge genocide of like Christians in Syria or someplace?
I think so. I think it was Syria when that happened. Yeah. One thing that we did too with the State Department, we often went to the refugee villages quite a bit. So like, once, because it wasn't just us bombing. ISIS also leveled a lot of territory too. So whenever people were displaced, we usually had some refugee camps where we would drive out to and give money and give out food and kind of do all that.
Were
kind
there
of stuff.
sometimes ISIS people in those refugee villages?
You know, there's always the possibility, but generally speaking, we didn't really feel that much of a threat. We never got like bombed or
Right.
threatened or anything else like that. So I think they did a pretty good job screening them out,
Yeah.
generally speaking.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's an experience. Did you like go into combat with that experience? Like something happened where somebody was booby trapped. You had to like get out. What was the situation when you had the most amount of combat?
No, that was that time where we were at a location. There were some shots fired.
Were you in the car? Were you inside the building?
No, we were inside the building. So like we roll up, we brought the diplomats inside the building. We heard some gunfire, so I put some people out in the windows and all that to try to like return some shots because we thought it was coming from the next building. But the thing with the State Department that we were trained to do was we were not to go out and engage them. We're literally human shields for the diplomats to bring them back in the car and then speed off the ejector. Like we were not there to fight. We were there to get them back in the cars and drive off.
And then did you drive off with them back in the car?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So basically, I would just
was
go.
that pretty like thrilling to go through your first like your first and only kind of like?
I mean, it was, but I was like, man, I wish
stressful?
I wish I was the, because then we called in the Green Berets, and then they went in and actually like stormed the place afterwards. I'm like, can we drop them off and go back? Yeah. Hey guys,
because you did a lot of training at that point. What?
Yeah.
Did you pass the Ranger School at that point?
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna say. So after deployment, I came back and eventually went to something called the Maneuver Captain's Career Course, which is like if you're a combat arms captain, you're going there before you take over command.
Yeah.
After that, I went back to Ranger School, and at that point, I'd had enough Army experience under me where like I knew what I was doing. So I was finally fit enough and smart enough where I could actually freaking pass the school this time. And yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your fitness at that point, because you passed the school, you passed Ranger School, which is freaking amazing.
Yep.
It's hard. Like, what's the percentage of passing in a, like, let's say a setting?
I'd say there's like a 30% pass rate of everyone that eventually go to the school. I'd say maybe 30% pass.
So how many people go and how many people pass? Do you know? Is it different every time?
So it's like it's different every time, but yeah, that's like 30%. So let's say you had 100 people go to Ranger School. I'd say like 30 people would pass. Yeah. Okay. And they're normally pretty selective about who's going there too. Yeah. Like again,
you're talking the elite going there, and only 30% of the elite go.
Yeah, and honestly, it's pretty common that a lot of people will go back again to pass. Okay. That's a very common experience. I feel like mine was like failing twice and going back a third time was a little unusual. What can I say? I'm not talented, but I'm very persistent.
Resilient. You were resilient.
I was resilient. Yeah.
Hey, that's something that is important. Like in the military, whether it's in your entrepreneurship, like the big thing about this podcast is not only like are we passionate about fitness and how a faith has a role into this, but also like how that's going to also help our entrepreneur mindset.
Yep.
Because at that point, were you engaged at that point? Did you know Noemi?
I met her around the time that I went the third time. And that was also one reason I left the military was she was not super keen on me going on another deployment again. Because we were dating at the time that I was on deployment in Syria.
The 9 months of deployment?
Yeah. Okay. So
did she hear about the gunfight?
What?
Did she hear? No, okay.
The first time she listens to this podcast, this will be the first time.
First time she hears about the shooting?
What?
Is that going to be the first time he's going to hear about it?
Yeah. Okay. I might have said it. I mean,
bypassing, just like, yeah, I got shot.
Maybe. Now, one story I did tell her was we did drive through a minefield, but it was deactivated. But we didn't know it was deactivated when we were driving through it.
Okay.
She doesn't know about that. What?
Who was driving?
Yeah, I was. I was not in front. I was not the front of the convoy. Actually, I think technically one of the State Department people were in the front. So it was their fault. That's awesome. Yeah. Cool. So